What legal paperwork did the attorney draft?
What he drew up was, in case something happened to Casey, then custody would be given directly to myself and to George.
Okay, so it had nothing to do with custody.
It had nothing to do with that, but we also talked about all that, though. He asked us, is the father involved? Do you want to drop anything for alimony, anything like that? We said, no, absolutely not, because he's not on the birth certificate. The guy has no claim to Kate. He never...
So he wouldn't have any names that you mentioned at the time that you might not remember the last name now?
We may have given it to attorney. He may have it. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at that stuff.
That would be wonderful.
I'll pull that up and see what I have. I have an envelope at the house that has all the paperwork we got from the attorney.
Excellent.
For that.
Who, if let's say tragically something were to happen to you and George and Casey, who was going to be the godparents? Do we know?
You know what? I don't know if we thought that far ahead. I can't remember if we put Lee down or not. We'll have to see. It probably would have been Lee next, if it wouldn't have been.
So we've addressed the issue if something happens to Casey, like come to you. You would have
Yes,
custody.
I would have custody, and then I had power of attorney at any point if I needed to, like, anything would happen. Casey wasn't around, I could do whatever I needed.
So if she, heavens forbid, but a lot of kids do it, dropped the ball miserably and wasn't the good mother that some teenagers can, you had the paperwork drawn up.
That wasn't the reason why we did it. We did it in case something happened to her. Plus, also, it was also a statement that there was no other legal person that bounded themselves to Kaylee.
Parallel safety net.
Right.
Yep.
And by the time Kaylee was born, this Eric person had already been married, from what Casey told me. And Casey states that she has kept in contact with Eric's widow. So she knows his...
Who said this?
Casey told me this. She told me a year or so ago that Eric had contacted her and said that there was a potential possibility that he may be moving forward at some point, somewhere up around I can't remember if she said Gainesville, Jacksonville, somewhere up northern Florida, and wanted to get together with her and see if at some point down the road, but when they moved down here, him and his wife, and I guess Kaylee has a half brother, I guess his wife and him had a baby, which is younger than Kaylee. If they could ever maybe just, be friends, and then down the road eventually develop a relationship so that the kids would kind of know each other and realize that they're half brother and sister. And Casey told me, she told him flat out no. And I told her myself, I said, you might want to entertain that idea, because at some point down the road, Kaylee may need to have a half brother, medical reasons or something like that. So, plus, if she ever found out later on that she had a half brother that you said she could never meet, you never know how kids.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I just told her keep an open mind, and she was adamant that no, Mom, I really don't want him in her life. I don't want her getting confused. Blah blah blah. She doesn't know about a daddy. No one ever called daddy.
Did Eric ever try to do the stand-up thing and contact you and say
no?
Never.
No, it was a mutual
because
thing.
He was unaware, or because
no? She states that he was aware right away that they talked about it, but he was already either engaged to be married, and then shortly after was married after Kaylee was born.
Just so we don't get too far off track, you said that Casey was in touch with Eric's widow. How was that?
She got in touch with Casey and told her right after Eric died. Annie knows the exact date when Eric passed away.
Does Annie know who Eric is?
No, but Annie remembers getting a phone call from Casey, and I remember getting a phone call from Casey as well, stating that Eric had died in a car accident. I can't remember when it is. I want to say it was this year, somewhere around Casey's birthday in March, but I can't say. It could have been last year around Kaylee's birthday. It was around a major birthday, either Casey's or Kaylee's birthday.
Tell me about the widow. How did the widow get in touch with Casey?
Casey she said she called. The widow called Casey and told her. And then Casey actually had an obituary. And believe it or not, I remember seeing the obituary and never paid a bit of attention to the kid's name or anything else, because it was almost like actual closure then. It wasn't a big deal to me, because I already knew we had already taken every precaution that someone couldn't step in later on and say, hey, this is my child and I'm going to take him away from Casey.
Where did he die?
again, either Tennessee or Kentucky, one of the northern states, northern.
So, another state.
It was not Florida. It was
Last
not,
name.
and it was not Jose Ortiz. I don't know where the heck that name's coming from. That's out in the media right now. Jose Ortiz. I never heard that
What's
name
this?
before.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, yesterday. I mean, that's all.
I'll explain to you later. We don't need to go.
I don't even know how that came about. Someone asked who Ortiz.
Sorry about that. I don't mean to
Ortiz.
pick a scab. It doesn't need to waste our time.
I don't even know where that came from. I never heard that name in my entire life. So.
Okay.
Does that help?
I don't know how you veered off the date, so I didn't want to interrupt you.
Well, we're starting to talk about Jesse, and then you talked about paternity and things like that.
Yeah, because I wanted to go into if Jesse was ever over here at the house during this time frame that you can recall.
Jesse had not been to our house that I was aware of since they broke up. The last time I knew Jesse was at the house was sometime in June when they broke up. George and I still were not back together again.
June of
2000. Oh gosh, we got back together just before Kaylee's second birthday. No, before Kaylee's first birthday. Before Kaylee's first birthday, so 2006. So they were only engaged about 6 months, so it had to be 2006. That was the last time I saw Jesse at the house. It was sometime in June.
Was there ever, and forgive me for asking this, but it
Or
might be
then-
relevant later, was there ever any paperwork for divorce filed between you and George?
Yes, I filed, and then he filed. I actually went down to the clerk of court.
When were those rescinded, or when were those, I guess, voided by you guys, and you guys decided to say, we're not going to go through this?
We never, I don't know if, I think we just left the time lapse. I got served, I think, the 2nd of June, 2nd of January of 2006. I had gone down to the clerk of courts and picked up all the paperwork, and I actually handed it to him, which you can do without having them served. Well, he took the paperwork that I gave him, took it to an attorney, and had them serve me. Well, I was trying to save all this court cost and do all this other stuff. We could have had something done for, what, $400.
You guys let it lapse, and
Yeah,
was Jesse there before it lapsed, after, or while this was going on?
Yeah, he was still, I don't think he was there that day. I had actually gone down to Fort Myers to talk to George before I got served about something, because I had given him the paperwork and I wanted him to sign it.
Beginning of 06 or beginning of 07?
06. Because we were back together in 06. Like I said, it was only a few months that we were separated.
Sorry, back to Jesse.
That's okay. This week, I just have questions about from talking to other people. Did George, on the Friday of the 13th, did you guys end up down at ORMC or any other hospital because George had any kind of medical condition?
No.
No hospital visit?
No.
He hasn't had a stroke?
No. That was what Amy told me. No, George has not been in the hospital for a couple of years.
Yeah, because I guess Casey was supposed to go to Jacksonville that day.
That's what Amy told me.
Okay.
To help her pick up her brand new car because her car had gotten totaled. Which is funny because Casey told me that Zanny just got a brand new car because her car had gotten totaled.
When did she tell you that?
She told me that the 3rd week of June. Because she told me that,
This is after the 15th.
yep. It was that week after, that Monday after the 15th.
Did you see what happened?
Yeah, she said that they were coming back. This is some of the information that I shared with the FBI and told them to make sure they shared with you because all this stuff did not make any sense to me.
Well, where did she tell you this happened?
About Amy. This is when she told me that they were in Tampa. Let me see the June calendar and I'll tell you the date.
Come on over.
Because I gave a timeline to Scott Boland for what Casey told me where she was at, where she said she was at when we would call every day. This is June.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is when. Okay, this is the morning George saw. He last saw them about 10 to 1, just before he went to work. Casey and Kaylee leaving like any normal day. She had told me she was going to work, dropping Kaylee off at.
What time did you leave that day for work?
Probably 7:15, 7:20, because that was my early day. I had to be at work.